Welcome back, everyone, to the EnergiaSaves podcast from Energia, where we discuss innovative ways for school districts that are transforming their energy liabilities into energy educational assets, I should say. I'm your host, Kendley Davenport, and with me is my co-host, Kendra. Say hello, Kendra McQuilton.
Hi, Kendley. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode.
Well, it's fantastic to really get this one started because we have a very special guest with us, Kendra, someone I know you know very well, but has had extensive experience working with school districts and all types of energy saving improvement projects. Our guest today is Dave Newman. He's our Vice President for Engineering here at Energia. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're really glad to have you, Dave.
So today's podcast is going to be discussing energy performance contracts versus design, bid, build, or capital projects. Dave, we're really excited to get your expertise and your insight on this matter because I think a lot of school districts, they know what an EPC is, they know what a capital project is, but they don't always know how they can leverage both to achieve the best results. So I'll kick off the first question. And so, Dave, what do you see that school districts are looking to achieve today in their facilities?
So what we're finding is that, especially with all the COVID-related stresses that have happened with districts and strains on budgets, districts have tremendous amount of pressure on them to improve ventilation, occupant comfort, especially with return to instruction in schools, and just general stress on their budget, on their energy budgets. As we know, energy costs are increasing significantly right now, and ways that they can pull back and mitigate those cost escalations is a huge priority right now for districts.
That's excellent, Dave. One of the things I wanted to maybe set the stage for as we're really getting going here in this particular podcast is you really begin by setting some of the terms. What's the difference between upgrading facilities with an EPC, or that energy performance contract, versus just a capital project that they might otherwise undertake?
Okay. I mean, first and foremost, really the definition of an energy performance contract, by its very definition, is an energy-focused, self-funding project where you're going to use the savings you can achieve with upgrades to directly pay for the upgrades that you're going to perform. And it's purely energy focused. It's also a fixed cost, no change order type program. So the cost in is the cost out. The scope that's committed is the scope you get. By contrast, with a capital project, you really can do anything you want. It doesn't have to be energy related. And they're usually a large mix of energy and non-energy related type measures. But there is no fixed cost guarantee in bond and capital type projects. But it's not a focused project on energy like EPCs are. That's the major difference.
Well, I want you to expand on that difference between that sort of fixed priced aspect of it, because I think districts oftentimes view things in the other sense of how the things they run into problems down the road or unforeseen circumstances. And it seems like the EPC model, that leverage you can use, helps reduce that. Can you expand on that some?
Absolutely, and very much it does. Under the EPC model, you're actually partnering with a turnkey provider, a single source provider that's going to do all of the work for you, and guarantees that the energy savings and the performance of the equipment will be achieved. That the promises given are actually achieved and met. That's a really big key difference here. You've got one turnkey contractor that's going to perform all of this work. They're going to monetarily guarantee that the savings and the performance of that equipment is achieved, and really doing it for a really known fixed price, fixed cost, for a fixed amount of savings. That's a huge contrast to a capital program where you have change orders, you have multiple primes, you have low bidders, and you have to manage all of those individually. The district really has the burden of managing all of those entities and all of the financials in the project. Under an EPC, it's all turnkey and managed by one entity centrally.
Well, Dave, is a question I get asked all the time. I bet you Kendra does as well through her years of experience. Can these two types of projects work together? Because sometimes I think they think that they're independent. And what's your take on that? Can the projects work together, an EPC compared to a typical capital project?
So not only can they work together, they often do. It's actually extremely common. And as a matter of fact, what we often can do is engage an energy performance contract in parallel with an existing bond or capital plan that's being done, where we extract the energy related or energy focused items out of the bond. Because remember, the EPC has to do energy related measures, whereas capital work can do anything. So really the argument there is, let the EPC and let this turnkey solution focus on the energy related measures, because that frees up capital and frees up dollars in your capital bond to go off and do the things that aren't energy related, but you still need. So you go repave parking lots, go do finishes in classrooms. They're not energy type related measures, but by allowing the energy type stuff like LED lighting, like boilers and chillers, to move over to an energy project, you're freeing up capital that can be reallocated to other things. And we coordinate this all the time, actually, with districts, where we do the two in parallel, and it works very well.
If I could, thank you, Dave. If I could add to that, we're currently working on two very successful joint EPCs and capital projects with an architect. One is Malone School District in upstate New York. The other one is Pauling. And what we were able to do strategically with the district and the architect is to do exactly what Dave just said. Look at all the capital needs, see which could be funded out of savings using the EPC process. The EPC funded those, leaving only the capital projects that could not be funded by the EPC for the bond. And what we had there was, in both places, a scenario where you get the same amount of work done for less taxpayer impact than it would have been had you put them all in the bond. And it garners a lot of trust in the community. They love to see that you're thinking creatively, and I'm happy to say those are going very smoothly.
Well, that's fantastic. Maybe this is a question for both of you, but Dave, I'm going to have it come to you first. How does a district know what's best for them, in this process? It's a lot going on. It's a lot to sort of take on at one time. How do they know what's best?
So, it's almost rare that a district doesn't have any significant energy related needs to get done under their capital plan. Really anything that saves energy is eligible under an EPC. And that, we often think of the LED lighting and the boilers and the chillers, but you can also do items like windows and doors, roofs. These are all energy related measures that are available, are eligible under the EPC type program. So really, if you look at your capital plan and you've got, significant energy related items in that plan, almost by definition, you're absolutely eligible to look at EPC as a method. Yeah.
Excellent. Any extra thoughts to add to that, Kendra?
Only that, I think it's important for school districts to if they want to maximize their financial resources, before they simply do it the way they may already know how to do it, take a look at all your financing options. That way, you could likely get more work done with less taxpayer impact, less borrowing, and really just make it a holistic, cohesive type of building project that the community really appreciates. So the important thing is to take the time up front to do that review to make sure you're maximizing all the funding options that are available.
That's really fantastic. I know this is going to sound like a question that we might have already answered in this podcast already, but I get calls all the time where school district administrators calling me up going, "Hey, my boiler's broke. Can I fix it under an EPC?" It seems sort of basic. What's your answer, Dave?
Simply put, absolutely. That is a perfect EPC measure.
That's really excellent. So, Is there anything that, in this short time podcast that we're putting together that we've missed when it comes to EPCs or versus a capital project? Anything you think we're missing in our questions to you, Dave, to help school districts think about this more comprehensively? Certainly, as Kendra has alluded to.
So again, just to reiterate, really take a hard look at your capital plans and where you have energy related needs. Certainly look at, with COVID, there's been a huge reemphasis on ventilation and proper outside air and ventilation in schools. And, that's a perfect avenue for energy projects, because not only can you improve your ventilation and healthy, really improve healthy buildings, but you can do it in a very energy efficient and energy driven way, and maximize the highest of efficiency equipment is what we focus on in EPCs. So while you have to add fresh air and you're making a healthier building, you do it efficiently.
Right. Thank you so much, Dave. And thank you all for listening. If you have any questions about this particular podcast, or if you would like to suggest future topics for podcasts in this area, please reach out to us, email us below. We would love to hear from you.
So that concludes this podcast with Dave Newman, our Vice President for Engineering Services here at Energia. I hope you got some good tidbits of how to EPCs versus capital projects work, and we look forward to having you at a future podcast. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you again, Kendra and Dave.
Thank you, Kendley. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,